I'm Bob Brill. He's Eric Kramer. Welcome to Kramer and Brill, a fantasy football podcast, and now videocast as well. Now, you can hear the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, libsymradio.com, wherever you get your podcast. And now you can also see the videocast on YouTube by going to my Bob Brill YouTube channel or by finding the links for all of this at kramerandbrill.com. That's the easiest way, kramerandbrill.com. We'll take a look at how we did for you, a look at this week's games, who's trending, our feature Ask the Quarterback, where each week we select a fan who writes in to ask Eric a fantasy football-related question. We'll bring the fan onto the video podcast to ask that question directly. And you can be that fan. All you have to do is simply email me at brillpro@gmail.com. That's brillpro@gmail.com. And you can also get on our mailing list by sending an email there and just say, hey, we'd like to be on your mailing list as well. You can see it right there on the bottom of your screen, brillpro@gmail.com. So how did we do for you last week? Well, we really liked Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson. McLaurin had 7 for 90 and a touch. Gibson went off. He was awesome. 20 for 129 and a score. We said no to Andy Dalton. He was 9 of 19 before getting hurt. We both really liked LaMichael Pirine. He had 11 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown, added 2 catches on 3 targets. Now, I didn't like Aaron Rodgers this week, but you did. 4 touchdown passes and no picks showed me. Okay, quarterback knows a quarterback. I did like Desean Watson, who was good after a slow start, 309, 2 touchdowns, and 38 more rushing. I said the Cincinnati-Cleveland game was going to be a high-scoring fantasy bonanza. Joe Burrow, 406 yards and 3 scores. Boyd had 11 for 101, while 4 other guys had at least 5 catches, including Giovanni Bernard, who we talked about last week, who added 13 carries for 37 yards. Baker Mayfield had 5 touchdown passes. Hunt had 76 on the ground and a score in the air, while Rashard Higgins had 110 yards on 6 catches. The bummer, Beckham going out, injured, no catches. I had him in my game. I started him, no catches in a 37-34 game, and is out again this week. Now, I said to ride DeAndre Smith and bump Adrian Peterson in Detroit. Swift had a touch on the ground, 4 catches, good for double-digit fantasy points in PPR. Peterson, 29 yards. You like Golladay, had 114 through the air. We like Todd Gurley, who had 2 scores. And while Matt Ryan was Matt Ryan again, he did spread the ball around to the receivers this week. We love Tyler Lockett in Seattle. What's not to love? In the first half, he had 8 catches for 133 and 2 touches, finished with 15 for 200 yards and 3 touches. And finally, we love Justin Herbert again with his 347, 3 scores, no picks, and 66 rushing, including a touch. So trending up this week, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, James Robinson, LaMichael Pirine, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, Tyler Lockett, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Carson Wentz, T.J. Hawkinson, and Tua Tagovailoa. Trending down this week, Gardner Minshew. We've all gone off the Gardner Minshew bandwagon. Andy Dalton, gone again. Zeke Elliott, I hate to say. Philip Lindsay, Le'Veon Bell, Darren Fells, and the Dallas Cowboys. So, your thoughts on this week?
Well, I got to say, first of all, Tua, I don't know if he's trending up because they got the Rams this week. And that defense, it just humbled and humiliated the Bears, I think. But my thoughts regarding everything else that happened this past week, I loved that Josh Allen came back and answered, after having stumbled the last couple of weeks before that. Mm-hmm. And he looked confident. He was making good decisions again, albeit it was against the Jets, but it's not his fault the Jets are bad this year. And I love the fact that Justin Herbert, again, played well like he's played all year, but now they finally get over the hump and get the win. And I think that secures, well, I don't know if it secures anything, but it just lets me and I think everybody else know that not only the reason they haven't been winning isn't because of Justin Herbert. I think the reason they have a chance to keep getting better and be significant at the end of the year is because of him. I think Baker Mayfield responded fantastic. They got embarrassed and humiliated, him especially, against the Steelers the week before. And then he comes out, answers the bell, loses OBJ, and in the process, those 5 touchdown passes, it spreads the ball around, back to making good decisions again. And so I think I was impressed with that. I think that great effort by the football team. I know we can't call them anything else at this point, but on the same day that their coach, Ron Rivera, has his last cancer treatment, rings the bell, gets out of the hospital, they explode on the Cowboys. And I think that's probably indicative of maybe more the Cowboys being bad than the Washington football team being that good. But And the thing I think also that stood out to me as a Bears fan now is that we got humbled also and humiliated last night on Monday Night Football. And it was just top to bottom, start to finish, not even a close game. And it just, I think, exposed why the Bears offensively are, potentially facing a bigger problem than even they realize right now.
Yeah, I think the quarterback situation with them is, they really need to draft somebody who, a Joe Burrow's not out there every day, but somebody this year they should have taken somebody maybe, who was out there. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I know is it doesn't seem to matter who's playing quarterback at this point. Their offensive line can't open holes in the running game consistently and can't protect the quarterback. Even if Joe Burrow was there, even if Justin Herbert was there, even if Patrick Mahomes was and he was there, yeah. But even if he wasn't down in Chicago right now, I don't think it would make that big of a difference because they're so porous up front. Anyway, I think that the one thing I will say and give you credit for is you did hit it right on the head with Gronkowski. I mean, here he comes back, and apparently he's not just a one-hit wonder. So he did follow up the week before with another touchdown now against this past weekend against the Raiders. So I think moving ahead, he's probably a safe play.
Well, who's worse this year, do you think, Dallas or the Jets? 9-5, Beckham?
I think it's hard. Unfortunately, it's hard to say right now because Dallas, you don't know how bad. And we know how bad they are, but we don't know how bad yet they're going to be because Dalton's now they get down to the third, and we don't even know what quarterback at this point who's going to play, and they're just bad everywhere. And offense, defense, they're kind of becoming now what the Jets are. They're the antidote to somebody's previous bad play. Play the Cowboys, and you'll get at least your offense right.
Now we come to our regular feature, Ask the Quarterback. It's brand new, and today we welcome in Steve Bean of Kansas City, Missouri, longtime Fantasy Football League coach. Steve, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. I'm a retiree out here in Kansas City, and I run a couple of leagues myself out here, and been in one league for over 15 years.
Wow.
So I'm kind of have a question just because of what's been going on lately.
So what would you like to ask her?
Well, I want to know what the impact is on a quarterback when he watches his favorite receiver go down with a serious injury. I mean, we've had a lot of injuries in the last 3 weeks.
True enough, Steve. I think back maybe to when, so in 95, okay, when I was with Chicago, we had a really good offensive season. And the following year, probably the best, we had 2,000 receivers, Curtis Conway and Jeff Graham. At the end of that year, it was the second year of Jeff Graham's 2-year contract, so they did not sign him back. And unfortunately, in 96, we felt the effects of that. And it's hard to really make up somebody when their production and their talent level is so good. And so, but in Baker Mayfield's case, one thing I think it might do is it might have the effect on him of not feeling the pressure of having to look for OBJ on several plays, where he can now just let the play itself and the defense dictate his reads and not feel the pressure of having to get it to one single guy. You're still losing a great talent in Odell, and you're right. Here he was just these last few weeks coming on very strong, and the two of them seem to have great chemistry. But I think they've got other guys, Harrison Bryant's a tight end that just emerged, and Njoku and Kareem Hunt. So there's a lot of guys to get the ball to. And I think Baker Mayfield, like he's done all year, if you give him enough time and a good enough structure, like Stefanski seems to have done so far, he'll make the right decisions and right the ship.
You bring up an interesting point there because I was thinking the exact same thing as, on my fantasy team, I have Beckham and went out with no catches this week. And all of a sudden, Baker Mayfield lights it up with 5 touchdown passes. I got none of those. And it seemed to be a couple of weeks before that when they played Pittsburgh, that was this sort of the same thing. And so basically what you're saying, he actually may be playing better without the weapons because it takes the pressure off him.
Well, I heard the same thing a lot with the 49ers, and they made it work. But when you've got Jerry Rice out there, you actually have to game plan specific plays just for him. And you can see it happen where they will force the ball to him, and many times it worked out just great. But that's the pressure that you play with when you have one guy that is sort of head and shoulders above the rest. Is you kind of have to cater to him and steer your game plan his way when maybe that's not what the defense is allowing you to do.
I think one of the things that Steve and I were talking about in the pre-production meeting was that when you run into this situation, kind of look at it from your personal perspective, when you see that guy go down, which your favorite receiver goes down, what's your first thought? I mean, outside of the fact that, oh crap, the guy's injured, and could be out. Does your heart just sink like a rock, or is like you immediately go into this mode where it's like, okay, now I got to figure out what I'm going to do?
Well, I think you've heard the term next man up. And that's, I think, anyone who's played this game for any significant amount of time, going back to youth football or high school or college, that's the mentality. And so it happens, it's happened, I'm sure, to a lot of players, quarterbacks included, myself included. And, there's times when you're hurt and injured, sometimes for the remainder of a season. And the team manages to, the next guy steps up and he plays. And so the coaches don't coach one guy as much as they coach a system and a group of guys that fill in for each other. And so I think that's kind of how not only Baker Mayfield, but the rest of Cleveland Browns and the coaches on down will all take this sort of as best they can in stride.
Again, Steve and I were talking in the pre-production meeting, and he mentioned, and Steve, I'm going to let you do a follow-up question here because I know it's on your mind. You have Patrick Mahomes, and this week that wasn't so great for you, right?
Yeah, when they benched him, that sure knocked me down a lot of points. And what my fear is for the upcoming week is they're going to play the Jets, and I can see them running up 20 or 30 points in the first half. And then Mahomes is just going to sit on the sideline. And it's like, what do you do there?
Well, hopefully he has the kind of game that he had last year against Houston in the playoffs, right? In a quarter, he put up 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of work that guy can do and be productive in a short amount of time as well. So I get what you're saying, but first of all, how in the heck did you, by living in Kansas City, do you just get Patrick Mahomes because of that? Or how in the heck that happened?
Actually, it was in Bob's league, and I was so terrible that year, I had first pick. And when the rookies came up, I grabbed him up just first thing. And I've got him in my other 2 leagues also. And it worked out real well. Now, I'm not a Kansas City fan. I live in Kansas City. I'm not a Kansas City fan. I'm a diehard Jaguar fan.
That's awesome. My son, who's 22 now, since he was about 6 or 7 years old, has been the biggest Chiefs fan. But we live in California, so he doesn't have a lot of Chiefs people, like no one around. And so I've taken him a couple Arrowhead games to watch the Chiefs. And, just when you get off the plane, it's just, it doesn't even have to be game day, just game day weekend. It's a different place, and everybody's in red. I don't care where you are, whether it's the car or the hotel or the airport, everybody you see, it's like a college town, as you know.
Yeah, well, one of my most interesting experiences at Arrowhead, me and my brother-in-law were sitting up in the cheap seats, and he's got his big parka from Chiefs on, and I've got my Jaguars parka on, and we're sitting up there. And about 3 rows back, this guy decides he doesn't like Jacksonville much, so he chucks a beer. Well, his aim wasn't real good. He wasn't a good quarterback. He hit my brother-in-law right in the back with the beer.
He was looking for a wide open Chief and found one, but just,
Yes.
All I can say, it's a good thing, Steve, that your other job isn't general manager of the Bears, because then we could blame you for not drafting Patrick Mahomes, but whatever.
Well, same thing goes for the stupid Jaguars. They didn't draft him either.
Right. A lot of teams can say that, I bet.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us, and appreciate you coming on for Ask the Quarterback. Keep playing fantasy football. Take care.
All right. See you later.
All right,
Okay, guys.
bye, Steve.
Now, remember, if you'd like to ask the quarterback, just email me at brillpro@gmail.com. And if we select you, we'll be in touch with you and bring you on the show next week. The email right there on the bottom of the screen. Now, let's get to this week's games. Starting with the Falcons and Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater solid, as is DJ Moore, coming off a 2-touchdown performance. And I'm good with Robbie Anderson, too. What can you say about Atlanta except a points machine? Ryan, Gurley, Ridley, Jones. What else can you say?
Well, the other thing I could say about the Falcons being a point machine is whoever plays them, that offense becomes a point machine. So I agree with you. Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater, Davis, the running back. I think DJ Moore again. And this is the Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater are kind of a secret around the league as to how good they are. So here they're coming up against a really poor defense. And like you said, the Falcons offensively put up points, but they give up a lot of points too.
Steelers Ravens, another tough one for the Steelers, and the Ravens are coming off a bye. Before the season, I've mentioned this before, ESPN said this would be the first Steelers loss. We'll see. I hope not. I think Mike Tomlin will have his guys ready, and after a 3-pick performance, Ben should be good if the Steeler line can hold. Keep an eye on Dionte Johnson, though, as he went down with an ankle injury. Juju got more targets last week, so he may be a better play than we said last week. Who saw 2 targets only for Chase Claypool and 8 yards receiving. Ravens are solid, but Mark Ingram may sit due to a high ankle sprain.
Well, I think if you look at the Ravens, okay, they've had a bye week, true, but now they're playing the Steelers defense, and they've embarrassed a lot of offenses out there. So obviously Lamar Jackson's in a little different category than most quarterbacks, but they're still going to have to play that defense. And offensively, I think the Steelers, like you said, Roethlisberger's been pretty solid every week. Even on a bad week, he has a good week. And Juju Smith-Schuster has obviously stepped up now lately as well. There doesn't seem to be a formula, though, yet for the Steelers offensively, because here one week Claypool goes off for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In this past game, he gets, 1 catch for
8 yards.
Yeah. And so then Schuster comes out of nowhere. And Dionte Johnson's also still there. So hard to say, I think, offensively picking a Steeler, and obviously now that James Conner's probably not going to play. Kind of a tough team to figure out, kind of fantasy football wise anyway. But, the Ravens, they still, they typically find a way to show up every week offensively. But this week, I'm not so sure.
Personal note here. I played my wife in our league this week, and she beat me by 40 points, and she had Dionte Johnson. I had James Conner.
Yeah.
James Conner had a touchdown called back. Ben goes right to Johnson for a touchdown. There's a 12-point swing. It happened again.
Did you at least fix dinner that night so somehow ease your pain?
Actually, I did. I cooked something she didn't like, but that's.
Oh, you could.
No, it was all good. Everything's good. We're tied actually on the season. Rams and Dolphins. Miami coming off a bye. It's going to be the first start for Tua. If he does what the other rookie quarterbacks have done this season, I'd go with him. Tyler Higbee was not active due to a hand injury. Again, I'm telling you, pick up Gerald Everett.
Well, and like I said earlier, with regards to the Rams defense, I don't care who's playing them this week. It's not going to be a good play. The fact that it's Tua, and not just that he's a rookie, but it's his first start, I think that's a bad combination. And so the Dolphins have been sort of inconsistent, and that's when Ryan Fitzpatrick was actually playing well himself. Just as a team, they weren't playing that well. The Rams, on the other hand, there's nobody you can't play or shouldn't play offensively for them. Right. Higbee, no Higbee, whoever's backing up Higbee. What was it, Munt last week?
Yeah, and Everett, they use quite a bit too.
Everett, I mean, there's Cooper Kupp, Josh Reynolds, Robert Woods, all of them. Darrell Henderson had a great game running the ball, making some tough yards at the end of the game. And obviously Jared Goff is about as good as it gets quarterback fantasy football wise. So yeah, that's my feeling on that. I think the Rams will go out to Miami and win this game. And I think this move to me to Tua at quarterback, I think it doesn't really sit well because they were just sort of on the incline of playing well, and then the switch gets made. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and I think this week is one week that Tua is going to remember one person he gets to meet for the first time. Aaron Donald beat Tua.
And all of Aaron's friends, right?
Yes.
He creates a lot of problems for everybody else trying to block.
Exactly. Jets at Chiefs. I like Pete Ryan again and any Chiefs player, but here is the rub. For fantasy, this is what we talked about a little bit ago. Andy Reid pulled Mahomes early because they were up so big, which left fantasy owners with a 200-yard, 1-touchdown day, which is not great at all. That's less than 15 points in most leagues. This should be a blowout. So I know you're going to go against me here, but I would consider, if you have a good backup quarterback, I may not start Mahomes. I know that sounds crazy.
Okay, so give me a name then of somebody who would fit into that category of good backup.
Oh, you got Wentz in a lot of leagues. You've got other starting quarterbacks who are out there. I mean, I wouldn't go with somebody like Foles, but you've got there's other quarterbacks who are available in smaller leagues. Now, if you're in a deep league, you're not going to have much of a shot there.
All right, I don't think I couldn't sleep with myself if I couldn't start Patrick Mahomes against any team, much less the worst defense in the league. And maybe one of the worst teams in the league in the Jets. And I don't care if he plays 2 quarters, 3 quarters, or 1 quarter. I wouldn't bet against Patrick Mahomes putting up great numbers, and the rest of the Chiefs too. So I would start every Chiefs player just like normal, because they're gonna, it's not always easy to figure out who's gonna be the guy. But even if he's not the guy, your guy is gonna, even if he's 2, 3, or 4, he's gonna put up numbers.
Yeah. I think you're right there. It's just there's a little bit of caution in me. Maybe it's because it's Andy Reid. I'm not sure. Vikings at Packers. Vikings coming off a bye, and keep an eye on Cook, who was injured last week. If so, Alexander Madison is worth a look. For Green Bay, Jamal Williams is a solid pick if Aaron Jones can't go. Williams gained 77 yards and had 4 catches in Jones' absence. We've had a lot of guys like that this week. We had that one good week, Dearness Johnson and couple other guys, and then the next week they disappeared. So be careful of that. But if Aaron Jones can't go, I think Williams is a good pickup for you.
I agree with you. And as we're looking for, at this point in the season, we know who Aaron Rodgers is going to play every week for you. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking for people at this point that maybe are just starting to climb into, a place of significance on their team, don't forget about Robert Tonyan, the tight end there for Green Bay. He's starting to get more catches, especially down in the red zone. And again, they're playing, the Vikings defense, whereas they're kind of like the Falcons, where Tonyan had 3 touchdowns. Now they're playing another porous defense in the Vikings. I wouldn't mind playing Tonyan if I had him.
Colts at Lions. Colts had a bye, but Jonathan Taylor and the defense are recommends. I'm liking Swift, Hawkinson, and Galladay, and of course Stafford.
Well, like we've said now for a couple of years with Hawkinson, even though his first year didn't pan out, this year in 6 games, Stafford's managed to find him 4 times in the end zone. And again, as a quarterback watching another quarterback, Stafford is actually looking for Hawkinson in the field and especially in the red zone. In fact, they're creating plays for Hawkinson in the red zone. And as we know, tight ends, that's what separates one tight end from another, is their production around the red zone area.
That's right. Raiders Browns. It was Baker Mayfield this past week, and Derek Carr also had a good day. I like Carr. I don't like the inconsistency of Mayfield here. There's no Beckham, so he's been declared out. And keep an eye on Landry as well. Now I love Aguilar coming off a 107-yard day, and Waller, and look for Josh Jacobs to bounce back.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be saying this at any point ever, but Baker Mayfield, despite all the commercials and despite some of the ups and downs, to me, he's shown that he's able to take coaching. He's able to learn from his experience. He's, I think, gotten, I don't know if he ever was, but he seemed like it, where he was playing to try to prove to everybody that he was worthy of being the #1 pick, the Heisman Trophy winner, and all that. And now he just seems like a guy that's doing his job. And albeit it was against the Bengals, but he did put up 5 touchdown passes, 1 at the end to win the game. And, I like him this week. I don't think the Raiders are anything special defensively. Offensively, obviously, they came out and have played well week to week. In fact, beat the Chiefs, the only team to do that. But I think that, Baker Mayfield showed me that he can distribute the ball. He can make good decisions and consistent decisions. Obviously, his worst games are when he gets away from that. But I think he's learning on the job.
Titans and Bengals. Titans should bounce back, but this could be another tough game. And I'll tell you why. Titans to give up points early and come back and beat Cincy in the closing minutes. It's a pattern for both teams. Cincy loses in the last minute. The Titans come back and win it in the last minute. So, but keep an eye on Jonnu Smith and the injury wires. And Gio Bernard really is worth a pickup this week if Mixon is still out. AJ Green came back, so he should be on your playlist as well.
Yeah, this is going to sound crazy, but for a rookie quarterback, Joe Burrow, to me, is playing better than anyone I've ever seen. Their rookie year. And 300 is his floor. I mean, he's throwing for between 3 and over 400 yards every single week. And it's not like they've got a great offensive line, but they're giving up points, which means they have to score a lot of points and move the ball, and he's getting all that done. To me, he's their best player, not just offensively, but defensively. And as for the Titans, I mean, they played the Steelers defense last week. Right. So, and Tannehill still threw for 2 touchdown passes. Not great, yardage numbers, but he's still getting it done what matters most. And A.J. Brown has stepped up. Jonnu Smith is now coming back, but A.J. Brown in his absence has proven to be a very reliable guy. And here he put up 153 yards and a couple touchdowns last week, or 1 receiving touchdown, excuse me. And even though this was probably Derrick Henry's maybe one of his worst fantasy football producing games, he still put up 75 yards and a touchdown. 75 yards, yeah. So, and again, that was one of the better defenses in the league. So this week they're playing a Bengals defense, which is just the opposite of that. So I'd look for a big game out of the Titans.
The interesting thing about this is Joe Burrow right now is the perfect fantasy player. He's a good quarterback with a lot of opportunities because his defense is so bad. The defense is scoring, which gives him more chance for volume, and their offense is just doing well. So in fantasy, that's one of the things you look for is a good quarterback on a team that can score points with a bad defense, because you're going to get more opportunities because your defense is going to give up points in early. So
who's not going to be getting taken out early in the game, like maybe Patrick Mahomes, right?
Especially because you keep you're not a winning record, and that team still wants to get to that winning record. The coach has to keep him in and keep him in there for a good long time.
I agree with you.
Chargers and Broncos, Herbert and Locke, both likable in this one, as is certainly Keenan Allen and Tim Patrick. If his hammy's all good, then keep an eye on the injury wires there. Otherwise, if Tim Patrick can't go, KJ Hamler is a solid pick to pick up the slack. The rookie has had flashes. Lindsey's likely out, so lean on Gordon.
Yeah, I liken Herbert's fantasy production to that of Joe Burrow. I mean, again, another rookie guy, but I'd say his skill set is a little more akin to Josh Allen's in that he's that kind of athlete. He's that kind of runner. He's oftentimes their leading runner in the game now that Austin Eckler's out. And, I think Herbert's kind of climbed into that level now of Joe Burrow, where I would, if I had Justin Herbert on my roster, depending on the other quarterbacks, but maybe not even depending on the quarterbacks, he's climbed into that category of a guy that I need to start every single week.
49ers and Seahawks, Jeff Wilson had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns until a high ankle sprain took him down. Pickups there are McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty. Jimmy G looks solid as well. You mentioned that last week. You really liked him. He had a good week. Seahawks, well, the only cautionary tale here is Chris Carson. He went out with a foot injury. Watch the injury wire and possibly pick up Carlos Hyde as he's going to get the work if Carson can't go.
I agree with you. And I think that, I doubt that Russell Wilson is maybe ever again going to have a game where he throws three interceptions.
Yeah.
But while DK Metcalf has been stealing sort of all the headlines or gathering all the headlines this year, it's really been Tyler Lockett that consistently week to week has been producing. And if I had him, I would start him this week. I think that obviously it's a divisional game. You think it's going to be hard fought. And I think that in San Francisco, though, as good on offense as they are, as productive as they are, fantasy-wise, it's hard to predict who's going to be the breakout guy. Kittle seems to me every week, though, they're going in his direction. Last week he had, 5 catches for 55 yards, and that's kind of his floor right now. Whereas the rest of that team, like you said, it could be one week the running back that nobody knows about. It could be, whoever. And Jimmy G's obviously, I think, had his games where he hasn't produced, but I think at the same time for them to keep winning, he's going to have to keep ascending, and I think he's got the talent to do that.
Saints and Bears, Breeze just never stops, but he's running out of wide receivers to throw to. Thomas and Sanders already. Now Callaway is hurting. Look to Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith to pick up the slack. Now, Allen Robinson went out with an injury, and I got to ask you, who would you recommend as a possible pickup behind him?
On the Bears, I don't know, because I saw that when he went down, and there really wasn't anybody that came in and really did pick up the slack there. And offensively in Chicago, they don't, with or without Allen Robinson, they don't have any answers. I love Allen Robinson as a fantasy player, but who knows if he's going to play this week? And they've got way more questions than they have answers offensively. It's too bad we can't insert Chicago's defense into an offensive receiver spot or something, because they seem to be scoring more than the Bears offense.
Patriots at Bills. This is an interesting game. We had last week, Cam Newton got benched after throwing 3 interceptions. Josh Allen pulled it back again and went back into Josh Allen mode. It's going to be a wild one as far as where do you go with this? I'm not really liking anybody on the Patriots, and I do like the Bills. I like Josh Allen solid here.
I agree with you. And Cam, to me, looks like he's not the same guy after the COVID positive test he had. So I think he's still feeling the effects of that illness. He just looks slow. Commentators are talking about how he just looks lethargic out there. And unfortunately, it looks more like an issue with the effects of his positive test than anything else. And that's why I wouldn't start anybody with the Pats offensively. But like you said, I think Josh Allen has righted his ship. Was against the Jets, but the Patriots, defensively, they've been exposed a couple times this year as well. They're not as deep because, as we mentioned at the beginning of the year, they had a lot of opt-outs, most of them, if not all of them, on defense. And, Beasley's been very productive and consistent for Josh Allen. And then don't forget about Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's been productive. He hasn't always had, he hasn't always topped the charts every week, but he had a consistent game last week. And now against the Patriots, I think he's another viable option for Josh.
What a pickup he was, huh? I mean, that was I thought that was an amazing acquisition by the Bills this year, because that's the one thing they needed to complement Josh Brown.
I agree with you. And, everybody talks about the pickup the Cardinals made for DeAndre Hopkins, but Stephon Diggs silently went to the Bills and has been productive ever since, and is going to be for a long time with a very young quarterback.
At Cowboys at Eagles, I'm not sure I'm even starting Zeke here. I'll be real honest with you. I mean, look, at least he'll get the ball. And so will everyone else in the world know he'll get the ball. So don't look for much, especially if whoever is a quarterback can't move the team. I don't like the receivers here either because of that. I love Wentz to blow through the boys' defense and any wideout who is healthy. And I really like tight end Richard Rodgers here. With Ertz out, he's been superb. He's a veteran. He used to play with Aaron Rodgers, and they are playing Dallas at the Dallas defense.
I agree with all of it. And I think Wentz is a definite play. I think he's, it doesn't seem to matter whether it was last year or now again this year. You don't know who he's going to go to. I mean, it's a revolving door of players because they're getting hurt every single week. So, but he's the guy that's most consistent. And the great thing about Carson is, even last week, he's always a big part of the running game, whether it's scrambling and typically looking for guys to throw to while he scrambles, but he can also pick it up and, get first downs himself running the ball. They make designed runs for him, which they did last week, and he scored in the red zone running the ball. So I agree with you. I don't know of anybody else I would start in Philly on offense because I don't know who's going to be productive. I don't know who's going to be throwing to.
Buccaneers at Giants, Tom Brady versus Daniel Jones. Who gets schooled this week? I like everyone on both these teams except for the Giant running backs. Now, Tampa defense will control the line, but I really do think that Tom Brady will still get his, and so will Ronald Jones. So can you say Antonio Brown? They picked him up here. I don't know if he's going to be ready or not.
Well, hey, when he came in with the was it the Patriots? He did score a touchdown, right? That first game back with them. So hard to say, but I think the Buccaneers right now, if you had to ask me, who's the one team that's kind of separated themselves consistently, I'd say it's the Buccaneers because they started out defensively and have remained an elite team on that side of the ball. And now Brady's hitting his stride. Even Gronkowski's coming in and being, consistent. And offensively now, the Buccaneers are tapping into that elite level as well. So I would start any Buccaneer player I had offensively and defensively. If I was lucky enough to have them, I'd start them too, because I don't think this is going to be the week Daniel Jones comes back.
And there you have it. Kramer and Brill, a fantasy football podcast, and now a video cast as well. You can hear the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, radio.com, wherever you get your podcasts. And now you can also see the video cast on YouTube by going to my Bob Brill YouTube channel. Or you can find the links for all of this at kramerandbrill.com. You can go to our Facebook page as well. Kramerandbrill.com, that's the easiest way. And don't forget about our new feature, Ask the Quarterback. Each week, we select a fan who writes in to ask Eric a fantasy football-related question. We'll bring the fan onto the video cast to ask that question directly. You can be that fan by simply emailing us at brillpro@gmail.com. That's brillpro@gmail.com. See it right there on your screen. Have fun with fantasy football. For Eric Kramer, I'm Bob Brill. We'll see you next time.